What's going on, everybody? It's etaprime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new ROG Phone 9 from Asus. And I've had this in my possession for about 2 weeks. I've been really excited to show this thing off, but couldn't due to embargo. Either way, this is a blazingly fast Android-powered gaming phone. And of course, we are using the Pro version, so it's got tons of storage, tons of RAM, but what makes this thing so powerful is the fact that it's using Qualcomm's brand new Snapdragon 8 Elite. And Qualcomm does claim that this is the fastest mobile CPU on the market, and through my tests when it comes to gaming, emulation, and synthetic benchmarks, this thing is definitely topping the charts across the board. And given the fact that this is an ROG device, they paired it up with some really awesome technology. Like up front here, we've got a 185Hz 6.7-inch AMOLED display with a resolution of 2400 by 1080, and it's got a peak brightness up to 2500 nits. And around back here on the ROG Phone 9 Pro, we've got the Anime Vision Mini LEDs. It's fully programmable, and on the Pro model, we have 648 dots with their Anime Play technology, so we can actually play some retro games around back here that they have baked into the operating system, and we'll take a look at that in just a bit. But I did want to give you a look at what else is included with the ROG Phone 9 Pro. Now, this is a bit different from the 9 version. We've got the Pro model here. But with the Pro model, we do get this 65-watt PD fast charger. Also comes with a pretty beefy braided USB Type-C cable. And one thing here that I personally love seeing with these gaming phones is an active cooler. This is their active Aero Cooler. And basically what we've got here is a thermoelectric cooler or a Peltier cooler. It's going to strap on the device, use power directly from the battery or wall power. It also adds some physical triggers, but from Armory Crate, there's several different cooling modes that we can use with this. And in turn, while this is connected, we don't have to worry about this thing thermal throttling at all. It also comes with this nice little carrying case for that Aero Cooler. So like I mentioned, I've had this device for about 2 weeks. I've been doing a lot of testing with it, but one of my favorite things here is the display. It's made by Samsung. It's actually a Samsung E6 flexible display, but it's totally flat on the ROG Phone 9 Pro. And the Anime Vision around back does come in really handy. We can set this up to show different notifications, battery percentages, who's calling, and we can also set this up as kind of a countdown to control our camera. Plus, like I mentioned, we've got something new here specific to the ROG Phone 9 Pro, and that's Anime Play games. There's a few built in here, and I'm not sure if they do plan on releasing more, maybe even the SDK so you can create your own game. But right now there are 4 included, and this was pretty awesome. I haven't seen this in a phone before. To some people, it might be a bit gimmicky, and yeah, I could definitely see that. But since we've got that anime display around back, we might as well utilize it in several different ways. And with these Anime Play games, they've definitely figured out how to do that. Plus, we can use this for notifications. It also looks really good around back. I mean, having that ROG logo or even a custom logo that you draw up is pretty nice. When it comes to the overall I/O or ports here with the ROG Phone 9 Pro, down here we've got our SIM card tray and the 3.5mm headphone jack and a USB Type-C port. Over on the right hand side, we've got a power button, volume rocker, and 2 air triggers. So we've been seeing this quite a lot on gaming handsets. We can use these as physical buttons up top. Over on the left hand side, we've got another USB Type-C port. And when using this port, it will take priority over the bottom USB Type-C port, but from this, we do get display out, and as far as I've been able to test, 1440p 120Hz, which is awesome for an Android phone. Plus, this is where we're going to send power to that active Aero cooling system. And of course, when it comes to the overall specs, like I mentioned, this is utilizing Qualcomm's new Snapdragon 8 Elite, and with this chip, they've done a few different things here. In the past, we saw efficiency cores with these Snapdragon 8 chips. But with the new 8 Elite, they've done away with the efficiency cores, and now we have 2 larger prime cores with a clock up to 4.32 GHz, which is pretty awesome for an Android device like this. We've also got 6 performance cores up to 3.53. And the GPU here has also been totally revamped. It's an Adreno GPU, and they're claiming 40% faster performance, 40% better power savings, and a 35% increase in ray tracing performance. But with this, we get 3 GPU slices up to 1.1 GHz. Asus will be offering a few different models of this unit, but since we've got the Pro Edition, this has 24 GB of LPDDR5X running at a crazy fast 9600. It also has 1 terabyte of UFS 4.0 storage, a 185 Hz 6.78 inch AMOLED display made by Samsung. It's that E6 display. We've got a resolution of 2400 by 1080 and a peak brightness up to 2500 nits. 5800 mAh battery, and it does come included with that 65 watt hypercharge adapter. The rear main camera is a 50 megapixel sensor from Sony, and the front on the Pro model is a 32 megapixel shooter. So with all this technology packed into a handset like this, I mean, it's not going to do much without software, and that's the next thing I wanted to go over. I wanted to give you a look at all of the gaming-centric features we have here with the new ROG Phone 9 Pro. Since we're working with an ROG device, we do have Armory Crate. And as soon as we start this up, we've got our game library. These can be removed, you can add what you'd like, but with each, we do have a scenario profile that we can use. Basically, we can set up different performance profiles per game. We've also got our air triggers. We can download some pre-made settings here for those built-in air triggers. Key mapper, so if you did want to use a mouse, keyboard, or a controller, we can map it from here. Got macro, block touches, display area, filled, shifted, or centered. And with this game here, Genshin Impact, I've been using X mode with this, which is our highest performance profile without a cooler attached. But for people who really want to get the most out of the new Snapdragon 8 Elite, there is an advanced mode, and this makes a world of difference over on the GPU side. If we go to edit, performance mode, game tuning, up to level 3, it will give you a warning telling you that this thing's probably going to get hot. You're not going to get great battery life out of it, so use a cooler. But with this, we can go a bit deeper. Advanced game tuning, customize profile. We can set the maximum clocks on the CPU and GPU right here. And what I did was just kind of go through, create a max profile. And I do want to show you what this will do in benchmarks. So for most of the stuff that we're going to see in this video, I'm going to be in X mode. But just to give you an idea of what this thing can do, once you start tuning everything, I wanted to show you that also. Moving over to console. This is where we can control the overall performance. So with the ROG Phone 9, we've got 3 different modes. Well, 4 when we've got the cooler attached. X mode, dynamic, ultra durable. This is going to give us the best battery performance, and obviously in X mode, we're going to get the best performance out of it. But there is an X mode plus when the cooler is attached to the phone, so keep that in mind. Anime Vision, we took a look at this, and we can also play a few games on it. But there's more settings here. You can set it up so while you're listening to music, it'll give you a little visual, incoming call, notification, charging, screen on, screen off, and you can disable all of these. Another cool thing is if you're recording by yourself with the built-in camera here, you've got that timer countdown and recording time. And while we're playing a game, from the bottom here, we can set this up with a preloaded image. So we've got a few pretty cool ones here. Or when it comes to custom here, we can add our own, we can draw, or you can unlock more. I haven't looked into a way to unlocking these without having a friend that has an ROG phone, but there are some really cool ones here. So yeah, if you've got somebody that has the same phone or another ROG phone, you can definitely unlock these custom animations. Moving down from Anime Vision, display area, and again, per app, per game, we can set this up. Also got that Aero Cooler X Pro. This is great, and there's 4 modes. So you've got a smart mode, cool, frosty, and frozen. I will attach that in a second and give you a look, but basically it's going to keep this thing nice and chilly, and you're going to get the best performance out of this. Plus, there's triggers built into the air cooler. Game Genie, air triggers, and there is an unboxing mission. And finally here, from Armory Crate, featured games. 185 Hz, so these are games that will support 185, 165, 120, and usually I go through here to find those really high refresh rate games. That way I can test how this screen looks while we're playing a game at that 185 Hz, which in my opinion is a pretty crazy refresh rate for an Android device, but hey, I mean, it's here and this screen looks absolutely beautiful. Next thing I wanted to talk about here was the active Aero Cooler. This is a thermoelectric cooler, or a Peltier cooler. Basically, it's a powered cooler. You're going to send electricity to it. One side gets hot, one side gets super cold. And with this unit here, we can actually just mount it directly on the back of the phone. It's going to plug into that long side USB Type-C port. It'll automatically come on because I've been messing around with it. I've already set up the software. We've got a little bit of programmable RGB back here. And this doesn't block any of the buttons like some of the other ones that I've seen on the market. We can still access that power button with the built-in button on the active Aero Cooler. And through Armory Crate, we can fully control the RGB around back, and we've got 4 different modes. And one of these modes is not accessible over battery. You will have to plug in the cooler, and while that's plugged in, it'll also charge the battery up, or you can use pass-through mode. But we've got the smart mode, cool mode, frosty, and frozen over USB Type-C power. And once this is connected, we've got access to another performance mode, so we've got that X Mode Plus that we can use here. Moving down just a bit more, we can use the RGB on the rear for notifications, and we've got a few different presets, or you can go total custom with that RGB. It's really up to you, but I'll tell you, even in smart mode, this thing is not going to thermal throttle in X mode. Now, I've been doing a lot of testing with it and running benchmarks and stuff like that. You can get better performance out of this because those clocks on the CPU and GPU will stay much longer since we've got an active cooler attached. And that's the next thing I wanted to take a look at. I did run some benchmarks on this. I kind of faced it off against the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and that has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Geekbench 6, over on the left-hand side, we've got the ROG Phone 9 Pro, single core 3209, multi 10,259. And you can see over on the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which was Qualcomm's most powerful chip last year or last generation, coming in with a single of 2271. Multi still looking pretty good here, for an Android device, up to 7,100. Next thing I wanted to check out was some GPU performance, and through my initial testing, I wasn't really impressed with, the uplift of GPU performance when it comes to these synthetics versus the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. On the ROG Phone 9 Pro, we scored a 5,977 with Wildlife Extreme. On the Galaxy S24 Ultra, 4,942 with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Of course, we did get a nice little uplift, but I thought it would be more, and it actually is, because when using the custom performance mode from Armory Crate, now the ROG Phone 9 Pro is up to 6,498 versus that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. And if I run that a few more times on the Galaxy, might get a little better, might get a little less. I've done a lot of testing with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. It definitely looks like we've got a really nice GPU uplift here also. And the final benchmark I ran here was Antutu. On the Galaxy S24 Ultra, 1,787,000 and some change. Over on the ROG Phone 9 Pro, 3,033,000 and some change. So that is a major uplift. And if you take a look down the list there in the individual scores, you can see CPU, GPU, UX, memory is beating it out. But that GPU is well above that 8 Gen 3. So I've just plugged this into my game capture using USB Type-C over on the side of the ROG Phone 9 to an HDMI adapter. And the way it looks right now with the way I've got everything set up, 1440p, 120 Hz out, which in my opinion is more than enough for an Android device like this. But with it set up like this, I can give you a much better look at, everything we've got built in, because while we're playing a game, we do have a lot of settings that we can use. So we did take a look at Armory Crate, but again, while we're playing a game, if we swipe over, we can access our performance menu down here, our Game Genie. Over on this side, we've got our real-time monitor, network switch, navigation blocking, no alerts, no calls, AI noise cancellation, smart bypass, which is what I'm using right now. If I'm plugged into power, basically, if the battery really needs it, it'll charge it. If not, it'll leave the battery alone and just power the device, kind of saving the overall life of the battery itself. We can mark a clip, lock brightness, but one of my favorite things here is that real-time info. Now we've got a real-time frame counter. It'll give us the temperature, battery percentage, CPU and GPU usage. So yeah, you can see we're up to 120 with this setup here and Minecraft, but there are games that will run at a higher refresh rate on Android. I'm just plugged into that game capture, and again, 1440, 120 out. Checking out the right-hand side, got the AI grabber. We can set up a macro. Vibration mapping, air triggers, edge tool, speed up, clear some background processes for us. Record, lock touch, crosshair, quick control. The crosshair can be set up basically any color you want. Set the position. This is great for FPS games. Got that on-screen crosshair that'll stay right there the whole time. So yeah, when it comes to Game Genie here on the ROG Phone 9, we do have a lot of great settings here, and this does come in really handy for the harder to run games, and that's kind of what I want to move over to next. I want to show you what this thing can really do. First game we have here is Fortnite, and we're totally maxed out here from the settings. We can only do up to 90 Hertz inside of the Fortnite application, even though we've got a 185 Hertz display. But I'll tell you, if we could do 120, and I'm not sure if it's possible with Fortnite on Android, I think that this would definitely handle it. But yeah, at 100% resolution scale, running this super smooth. Every once in a while, got a dip here and there, but I mean, other than that, this is a really steady experience with Fortnite on Android. I also tested out Call of Duty Warzone. We're at the highest settings, and the frame rate from within the game says it's uncapped, but it's really capped at 120 here. Again, one of those games that I think only goes to that certain level. And I will admit that I haven't played through this game enough to kind of cache all of those shaders. Supposedly, the game does look better as everything caches, but I didn't notice any kind of pop-in or anything like that. Played super smooth. And by the way, with these games here, I'm using an Xbox controller connected over Bluetooth. I also went through, tested out Genshin Impact and PUBG. With Genshin Impact, very high settings, 60 FPS all day long, and you could just go to dynamic mode. You don't even need to be in X mode for a game like that, and we know that that's a harder one to run on lower end devices, but the Snapdragon 8 Elite does have that CPU and GPU power we've been needing. Basically, everything on the Google Play Store is going to be fully playable here, maxed out on the 8 Elite. But there was something else that I've been messing around with, and that's Winlator. If you're not familiar with this, basically it allows you to play PC games on an Android device. Now this isn't cloud gaming, it's not streaming. This is emulating an x86 PC game. This is a very early alpha of a Winlator build that's been working pretty decently with the 8 Elite because of the modified turnip driver that I have here, but it's still not perfect, and as soon as we get some more updates, I will be testing out a bunch of games because just seeing how it runs here on an early version, I can't wait to test out more. Fallout 4 full PC game, we're at low settings, over 60 FPS. I think when it comes to emulating PC games on Android, this 8 Elite is really going to take the throne. But another thing that this excels at is emulation. Here's some GameCube using the Dolphin emulator. Didn't have to do anything special. Right now, we're at 6x resolution, which is way more than the resolution of this display. Basically, this is running GameCube games at 4K on an Android phone. And with something like the Snapdragon 8 Elite, it also did an amazing job with GameCube and Wii emulation. But with that, we were up to around 2560 by 2112, 4x resolution. And when it comes to PS2, I'm sitting at 4x resolution. This is the Nether SX2 emulator with God of War 2. I got a feeling that we can go up much higher than this, but it's just going to be a matter of getting that emulator right for this new GPU. I think there's a few things going on because once I go up, I mean, it's pretty steady, but we do get that dip under 60. And this is about what the 8 Gen 3 can do right now, but we've got a much more powerful GPU and CPU. Final couple things I wanted to talk about here, battery life and thermals. When it comes to battery life for the ROG Phone 9 Pro, we've got that 5800 mAh battery. With the included 65 watt charger, we can go from 0 to 100% in 46 minutes. With heavy gaming, something like Genshin Impact, 60 FPS, maxed out, I was averaging 4 hours and 17 minutes. Video playback, 21 hours and 6 minutes, now that's streaming from YouTube. And average everyday use, 25 hours. That's no heavy gaming throughout the day, but some light gaming like Pokemon TCG. Been playing that quite a bit, but around 25 hours. So all day battery life with this unit. And as for thermals, without the active cooler, high settings, locked at 60 FPS for Genshin Impact. Back cover temp was 44.1 degrees Celsius. And Call of Duty Warzone, 43.8. So they're right in there with each other. I mean, if I ran this test a few times, they'd probably average right out there. So it's not unbearable heat coming off the back of this thing. And as for thermal throttling, without the active cooler, yeah, this thing will definitely thermal throttle. With that same test, high 60 FPS, in that 30-minute test with Genshin Impact, the CPU did thermal throttle by 22%, and with Call of Duty by 18%. But I'll tell you what, they still stayed steady at 60 FPS, and this is kind of a given. I hear a lot of people talking about phones overheating when they're playing games. Take your PC, turn all the fans off, and try playing Cyberpunk 2077 for 30 minutes and see what happens. They're packing a lot of power in these things, and really, when it comes down to it, I think this is pretty good given what kind of performance we're seeing coming out of this unit. Overall, I think Asus has done a really great job with the overall design. I do love that anime play around back, and I've been messing around with those games. It'd be nice to be able to program your own, and hopefully they do release the SDK. The screen on this is absolutely amazing. I love AMOLED displays, super deep blacks, very vibrant colors, and the fact that this will peak out at 2500 nits in daylight is awesome. I mean, you can definitely see this thing in daylight when you're out and about. And of course, performance here is top notch because we've got that Snapdragon 8 Elite. I mean, it's top of the line right now. We've got those really high clocks on those prime cores, which is awesome. The GPU is putting out some stellar performance, and overall, I mean, this is a really good Android gaming phone. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you've got any questions or you want to see anything else running on the ROG Phone 9 Pro, just let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning a little more, I'll leave some links to their official website in the description. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.